Beep beep, what is up ninjas? My name is Semworld and today we're going to be discussing the stereo image. I'm going to be using this track I just made in 2 hours. You know, it's definitely in its rough draft stages, but I feel like the drop sounds good enough to use right now for, you know, for this tutorial. So this is how it's going to sound like, all right? All right, so this is the track we're going to be using. We're going to be talking about why certain things are placed in certain areas of the mix and how it could have been done a little bit differently. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. I think the stereo image is a place where many producers can improve on, and instantly, if you care about the stereo image and you do it properly, you will sound 5 times more professional, even if you don't know how to actually properly mix, because I believe that placement is one of the most important things in mixing. So first off, guys, let's talk a little bit about what it means to be in stereo and mono. I'm going to be using this piano we have here to kind of give you the example. Here we have a piano, and I am going to be putting it in fully mono, which means coming straight from the center of the mix. Now, I suggest you close your eyes so you can kind of hear the difference. So that's going to be in mono. And now let me show you what stereo is going to sound like. If you can notice, there's a difference there. Now, why is it important for you to decide where to place these sounds in the mono or stereo signal? Well, it's very important because remember, you have to see your mix as kind of like a room, and you're trying to fit all these sounds into that mix so they sound good, so your bedroom looks good. If you're gonna put the sofa and then the TV right in front of the sofa and everything in the center, of course it's gonna look like shit. But if we decide to place it all, you know, nicely, and we give everything room, and then we give ourselves room to move around, then it's gonna look super nice, and girls are gonna be like, damn, did you learn from Semworld or what? So with that being said, guys, let's talk a little bit about the placement of the sounds in this song. The first thing we have is a bass. Now, I always recommend people to put their bass fully in mono. Now, the reason for that is because it's always going to sound a lot tighter in mono. For instance, I'll give you an example. I'm going to make this bass be fully stereo right now. We're going to add 2 voices. This is when it becomes stereo. No detunement, RM face all the way up there. Let's get rid of our L2 mono there. And let's hear how it sounds like right now. Notice how it's coming from the side. Now hear how it sounds like in the song. Let's put it in mono. So, as you can see, the bass sounds a lot tighter in mono, and it usually goes in the center of the mix in mono. So what else goes in mono? Well, obviously your kick is usually going to go in mono, straight from the center. And another thing you want to be coming from the center of the mix is also at times going to be your leads, which are going to sound like this. If you're going to, you know, close your eyes and see where they're coming from. Now, if you notice the leads are in the center hitting, and then the stereo, you know, the reverb is in the sides of the mix. Usually the reverb is going to be on the sides of the mix, so that's done for you through the preset you're using for the reverb. So with that being said, their leads can be in stereo, and a lot of artists, what they do is they'll have a mono lead, which, you know, one of them is going to be like this one. And then they would have one in stereo, which probably will sound like this one. This lead is going to be in stereo. Now, if you want sort of like, how do I know if something should be in stereo? Usually, driven sounds are more in the center of the mix, and more open sounds are in the sides. Or if you go into your preset and you look how many voices there are, if there are 5 voices, usually, like more than one, usually you're going to be in stereo with that preset. You can make something mono by lowering the RM phase or going with an odd number of unison and lowering the blend. Stereo, mono. As you can see there. So it's totally up to you how you want to approach this. But a lot of artists, you know, they're going to have a mono layer lead and then a stereo layered one, so it sounds wide and huge. Keep that in mind. However, in this song, I opted to have mostly mono-driven style of leads. And the reason for that is because it goes on to the next thing, and that's going to be the piano, which are the chords. Now, why are my chords in the stereo image? Why are they wide? Well, first off, I have my drop lead, my bass, and my kick playing in the center of the mix. If I decide to make this piano be mono, and you know, let's do that right now. Let's make it fully mono. And now let's place it with the bass. See how it's gonna sound like. Now, when this piano is in stereo, what I like about it is that it surrounds the bass. The bass is taking up the center. And think of the piano or the chords you have in a song as they're surrounding the leads and the bass. You know, they're surrounding them nicely like a blanket. That's the way I feel about it. Usually pads and sort of things are going to go on the sides. You can opt for vocals as well. But, you know, again, super cool. Now, here we have a vocal shot. Now, if you can tell me where that vocal is coming from, the vocal is actually a little bit of stereo and mono. The reason for that is we use the mono here and we lower the width. I don't want it fully, you know, 100% of its width, but I want it kind of mono-ish in the center, but still be kind of stereo, a little bit of stereo image. So I use this guy here to do this. So then when it hits, it's kind of center of the mix, then the mix opens up. So the cool thing about this here is the fact that, you know, it's the fact that we have the shot hit in the center and then the mix opens up with the piano. I really like that feeling. And usually you want to be like, all right, are my stabs going to be in mono or in stereo? That's going to be up for you to decide as a producer. But as you guys can see here, pretty much that's strategically being placed. Now, let's get a little bit more advanced, okay? You know, we're not going to be using fancy lingo, but the way this gets advanced is the fact that when you have something in both, you know, two sounds in the mono signal, well, you've placed them in the mono signal. Now, the other thing you have to place sounds is going to be the frequency spectrum. So, for instance, here we have a bass. I opted to take out a lot of the high frequencies on the bass because if I have the bass be fully open and I have it play with the drop leads, look what happens. They kind of fight, but then when I have the bass fully covered, I get rid of those frequencies that the lead is taking up. So as you can see there, you know, when you place something in the same positions as another sound, you got to make sure they're not fighting frequency-wise. You know, this is how you have to think about it. If I'm going to put my lead in mono and I'm going to put my bass in mono, make sure that they're not taking up the same frequency. If I'm going to put the chords in stereo and my lead in stereo, make sure that the chords aren't taking up a lot of the frequencies of the drop lead. Taking this further as well, you're going to have access to like mid-side EQ, which I'll talk about in future tutorials where, let's say the piano does have some mono frequencies and you're scared that it's going to fight with the lead. Well, you can go into the mono signal and EQ that there. But as you guys can see here, we separate the sounds this way because let's say I have everything come from the center of the mix, like the piano and all that, then it's going to sound really, really, really bad. The last thing I do want to mention are the drums. The drums, you can opt to have them on the sides of the mix or in the mono signal. It's totally up to you. It depends on the mix that you're doing. If you have your leads in stereo, your chords in stereo, and you have a mono bass, but you don't have anything else in the center, then it might be fine to have the drums come from the center of the mix. But if you have a very mono lead and a very mono bass, then that's when the drums should go to the side. So with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick tutorial on the stereo image. I'll call it something like future bound stereo image or something so no one, you know, people watch it. But I do want to make a more like concurrent video with this, like vocals should be placed in the center and all that stuff. With that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you like my little song here I made in 2 hours. If you want to hear more of it, you can find it on Snapchat on Several Music. And I'll see you guys next time. You guys take care and you guys have an amazing day.